gifts. Amy?
Hello again. So today's message is about Buddhism. But first, I would like to start by saying a huge thank you to Jan and to Kelly and Aaron for all of their help. I so appreciate all of the service you do to the congregation and for helping me today. Thank you. Yes, let's give them a round of applause. I feel so grateful and honored to be able to speak to you today about my spiritual journey to Buddhism and share one of Buddhism's core teachings that is simple in theory, but is often a little slippery for us to wrap our minds around. I hope this concept will cause you to pause, to question, and to think deeply. I am privileged to have studied several different types of Buddhism in my life so far, from Zen Buddhism during my time living in Hawaii, to the new Kadampa tradition and Shambhala in Virginia and Ohio, to Tibetan Buddhism in the mountains of India, to the Indian base of Vipassana retreat during my time in the Midwest. And now current day, where I periodically visit the local Vietnamese temple in San Antonio, Lien Hao. I am so thankful to the many teachers that I've had over the years. May this teaching that I pass along today serve the highest good for all. I first started learning about Buddhism when I was in college and officially began practicing in 2010. I took formal refuge under Lama Kathy Wesley in 2012. Taking refuge in Buddhism is a practice of committing to awakening by seeking support through what are called the three jewels. The three jewels are the Buddha, which represents our awakened nature. Anyone and anyone is a Buddha. The Dharma, which is the path of awakening, and the Sangha, the spiritual community. Taking formal refuge means that you attend a ceremony where you declare before your Sangha that you want to follow the path of Buddhism, and you will turn to the teachings and the community to help you face life's challenges. During this ceremony, you are given a Buddhist name by your teacher. My Buddhist name is very special to me. It is Karma Guerme Dawa, which means changeless moon. Here in Central Texas, it has been challenging to find an English Buddhist Sangha that's also family-friendly, so I do my best to maintain my own practice at home by meditating regularly, studying, and also learning how to teach these life-changing philosophies to my children. Like most Americans, I did not grow up a Buddhist, nor I did know anything about Buddhism. My parents were Christian, my dad having been raised in the Baptist church in Southern Virginia, which he often said he hated because he felt worse about himself when he left than when he arrived. He's a sensitive and caring man, so when he met my mom, who grew up Methodist, that religion seemed to suit them both much better. So growing up, I attended services in Sunday school, even serving as an acolyte when I was old enough. I have fond memories of the community there, my friends, the fellowship, and the welcoming and friendly faces of the congregation. My strongest memories of church, however, involved the snacks afterwards. It was always donuts. Snacks are important. And my favorite, doing cartwheels down the hallways when I thought no one was looking. Thankfully, I had a very warm and positive experience there. However, from a young age, I discovered a way in which I did not fit in at my church, and subsequently any Christian-based church. I was, and still am, a natural skeptic, and I'm a little bit of a rebel. I don't like following what other people are doing or following what they're telling me to do. I like to push back. I enjoy questioning, and I frequently think the questions, maybe, how do you know? Or why do we believe this? Why are we doing this? I view the world with a scientific and progressive mind. I want to ask questions and find answers. I believe there's always room for growth and improvement. Church has always felt stagnant to me, unchanging. And when I did ask questions at church, and I had a lot of them, I was unsatisfied with the answers. Soon I found myself refusing to go to church and looking elsewhere for spiritual fulfillment. One issue that often brings people away from church is not feeling the presence of God. For me, I did feel a strong spiritual presence of something greater than myself, but it was much greater, much bigger than the Christian church's idea of God to me. What I felt was all-encompassing, everything and nothing, existence itself. I would later discover that what I was feeling is what is referred to in Taoism as Tao, and in Buddhism as emptiness. But until that point, I searched. Ignoring my spirituality was not an option. When I have ignored it, I found myself incredibly unhappy and confused with my purpose in life. In my tweens and teens, I discovered earth religions, which I really resonated with, and that sustained me for a while. But once in college, I forego religious explorations altogether to focus on surviving the grueling demands of working and going to college. I remember coming across a few Buddhist texts, namely The Art of Happiness and other Zen texts, in college and found them incredibly intriguing but quite esoteric. I often found myself thinking, sure, this probably works for monks that don't live in the real world, but I have real problems. I was lucky enough to find a like-minded person in my college years who questioned things like me and was up for an existential adventure. This person is now my husband, Rob, and I'm so thankful for everything we have experienced together and the growth we've made. Then came a defining moment back in 2009 when my husband and I were living in Norfolk, Virginia. We had finished college. We had traveled across the world with Rob's Navy career. We had a pretty good life going for ourselves, yet we still felt restless and unsatisfied. We'd ask ourselves, is this it? Is this what all the hard work of our youth has gotten us? What's the point? Wake up, go to work, come home to have time for a few things, then go to bed and do the whole thing over again? It was depressing. We decided some spiritual exploration was the answer. We had taken some Zen meditation classes when we lived in Hawaii, and that resonated with us, so we started to look for Buddhism classes locally in Norfolk. We came across one near our house, and we started attending the weekly teaching and meditation classes. This was also the time when we discovered Unitarian Universalism, and we began attending services there as well. These two factors greatly changed the path we were going down. We started to feel like we were asking the right questions and having really good inquiries into the answers. However, as our interest in Buddhism deepened, we tried our best to learn and understand what we could from books and the weekly meditation class, but we felt like we could not break through. The teachings still felt distant and not actionable in everyday life for regular people. When the opportunity came up a few years later to take a gap year, which is a story for another time, we jumped on the opportunity and knew the first place we wanted to go was to the renowned Tashita Institute in Dharamsala, India. Dharamsala is where the Dalai Lama is in residence, and Tashita is known for being one of the best Buddhist institutes in the world. So we found ourselves traveling across the world to attend Tashita's 10-day silent meditation and introduction to Buddhism retreat. We were ready to dive deep. So imagine our surprise when we arrived at the retreat to discover our teacher was not an Indian or Tibetan monk, but Glenn from Australia. We traveled across the world to learn from some white guy? What does he know? But we could not have been more wrong or have asked for a better teacher, because as a Westerner himself, Glenn knew exactly where our minds would go when presented with certain teachings. He could catch us in our Western mindset, stop us in our tracks, call out our misunderstandings and faulty logic. It was a game changer. Learning from Glenn and the experience of the retreat as a whole was a profound and life-altering experience for Rob and I. Since then, Buddhism has become a way of life for us. So now that you know a little about my background and journey to Buddhism, I'd like to briefly present a core concept of Buddhist practice. I hope it resonates with you, causes you to pause and think, and perhaps encourages you to dive a little deeper. The great thing about Buddhism is that since there is no God to worship, it really can be helpful to anyone regardless of your own spiritual beliefs. So here are some questions that I have for you today. What are you striving for in your life? What really matters to you? What does your heart most long for? You may be thinking, a good job, a happy relationship, a healthy body, a nice home. There are many different answers to this, but all answers actually boil down to this. We all desire and are striving to be happy and to be free of problems and suffering. And what's the reality of life? What do we know for sure? We know we will suffer in our life. We will get sick. We will die. Our loved ones will die. The act of being alive is one of discomfort and dissatisfaction. We will often want things to be different than the way that they are. Things will happen to us that we don't like. Things that we love and want to hold on to will leave us. And we will often feel separate, alone, and unworthy. Whether it's small things like we didn't sleep well last night, we spilled our morning coffee, the deer ate all of our flowers again, or bigger things like we had a hurtful argument with a family member. A friend is diagnosed with a terrible disease. Our planet is being destroyed. Animals and people are treated unfairly and have their rights taken away. Our world is constantly in some state of war. To be alive is to experience innumerable sufferings on a day-to-day, moment-to-moment basis. And this suffering is universal. We are not alone in this. It is masked and packaged in many ways: fear, anger, depression, jealousy, unworthiness, but it's all the same. It's suffering. In Buddhism, we call this dukkha. So now the question is, if we accept that what we're really striving for, what our hearts really long for, is happiness and freedom from our problems, but problems are guaranteed to occur in our life, what do we do about this? Can we actually achieve happiness and feel peace in our hearts and in our minds? Can our world be at peace? If so, how? This is what Buddhism would like you to investigate. And if it fits, follow the Buddha's guidance toward understanding the true nature of existence and what practices will help you achieve true and lasting freedom and happiness for yourself and for the world. According to Buddhism, freedom is possible, and there is a path. The path that the Buddha taught is called the Noble Eightfold Path, and it details the exact practices to follow. For our sakes today, I'd like to focus on one of the beginning steps of the path, which is this: welcome everything and push nothing away. We're going to roll out the welcome mat, set the table for tea, and we're going to allow and welcome everything in and push nothing away. It's an invitation to open, to be present and aware, to allow, and to accept. Now, the word accept or acceptance is often complicated for us. We equate acceptance with doing nothing, with condoning, with allowing bad things to happen or allowing things to go unchecked. In Buddhism, this is not at all what acceptance or allowance is referring to. This is very important. Acceptance does not mean doing nothing. Acceptance happens when we use something called the sacred pause. We stop. Give attention to what is there before judging, before acting. When we pause, we return to ourselves and become present and aware. We soften, we open. We observe our own thoughts and our own behaviors and those of others with more kindness, gentleness, and eventually, compassion. The image of the Buddha seated under the Bodhi tree is one of the great symbols depicting the power of the sacred pause. A modern example of this is in the 2010 remake of The Karate Kid, if you can think back to that movie, when Jackie Chan's young apprentice, played by Jaden Smith, sees a lady charming a cobra and asks Chan how the lady is able to do this. Jackie Chan says, "She is still, calm like water, in here and in here." Jaden Smith replies, "Wait, so she's doing nothing?" And he responds, "Being still and doing nothing are two very different things." When a thought or a situation happens, instead of instantly and habitually acting, judging, grasping onto what we fear we might lose, or push away something to avoid pain, we pause. We pay attention, and we allow whatever is there to be there. One of my favorite Buddhist teachers is Tara Brach, and in her timeless book, Radical Acceptance, she offers a tool for using the sacred pause in daily life. Whenever an upsetting or undesirable feeling or thought comes up, you tell yourself, "This too." Not, "Oh, this too," but "this too." It's like saying to the thought or feeling, "You are allowed to be here. It's okay for me to feel this. I'm not afraid of you. You're just a thought or a feeling that came from nowhere and will return to nowhere. I don't have to do anything other than acknowledge you and let you be." When we allow and accept in this way, we take away the power of the thought or feeling. It no longer controls us or creates a story or a narrative. The dust begins to settle, the sky becomes clear, our minds open and can tap into our wiser understanding. Openness and awareness allows for us to handle life's challenges with more wisdom and grace. In one of my favorite poems by Rumi, he writes about this very idea. "This being human is a guest house. Every morning, a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness. Some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all. The dark thought, the shame, the malice. Meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond." I'd like to close my message today by offering a musical meditation. All you need to do is sit and listen. Be here with me. Be here with each other. Be here with your whole self. And allow the message of the words of this song to enter you. Happens all around. Breathe and smile. Be still and now. Healing happens all around and deep within. Nothing to do. Be aware of your fear. Presence is enough. Invite your love to be there with you. Let yourself be embraced. Healing happens all around. Breathe and smile. Be still and now. all around and deep within. Nothing to do. Be aware of your doubt. Breathe with it. Your presence is enough. Invite your love to be there with you. Let yourself be embraced. Healing happens all around. Breathe and smile. Be still and now. Healing happens all around. Deep within. Nothing to do. Be aware of your pain. Breathe with it. Your presence is enough. Invite your love to be there with you. Let yourself be embraced. Healing happens all around. Healing happens all around. Healing happens all around. Breathe and smile. Be still and now. Be still and now. Be still and heal. Thank you all very much.